And welcome back to the Weekly Tech Rant with me, Jay.
And me, Karl.
And I should have said it's episode 203. I forgot that in the intro there. You know, lose count though after 200 or just blurs into one.
I know.
So we are back as promised, following our little break there for sickness and other reasons. And what a week it's been, isn't it? I mean, there's full of tech news. We're catching up on the Apple event from the other week. It's never ending, isn't it, in the world of tech?
Exactly. It's go.
It is. So this week then, we're going to talk everything from supercomputing through to Nvidia. We're going to round up on the Apple news of over the last couple of weeks. And then the rumour mill is brimming over. I mean, this week we've got to put a lid on it. It's just too much stuff in there. So we're going to talk foldable Xbox? No, that's not the right. Foldable iPhone and handheld Xbox. I mean, maybe they are the same thing. Who knows?
Oh, yeah.
But first of all, then let us kick off with the first story of the week, which is coming from European supercomputing. They're looking at creating a new project with the name of, was it a digital autonomy with RISC-V, aka DARE. I mean,
it's because we need a snappy name, don't we?
I mean, I'm with it. I mean, it's not quite. What was the one that? What was the project? Stargate, wasn't it? It was the AI project in the US. Yeah. It's not quite the same level, is it? DARE, supercomputing with RISC-V. I mean, so what do we got here then? This is a project from Europe, isn't it? So this is European Union looking at how they can get ahead or kind of leapfrog in the kind of supercomputing leagues, isn't it? Really.
It is, yeah. So they want to build like a RISC-V supercomputer, and to that end, that they put some money up. Not a lot though. I mean, it's 240 million euros, not to be sniffed at, but to build, I think a RISC-V supercomputer chip, that's a bit small on the funding side. Yeah, but that's only phase one of a 6-year endeavor, they're saying. So maybe there's more money to come, but they are aiming to build a vector math accelerator for high performance HPC workloads. This is going to be led by a Barcelona-based chip designer called OpenChip.
Snappy.
Straight to the point. We're getting a next-gen inference chiplet from a Dutch startup called Accelera AI even. And a general purpose processor die driven by a German company called Codasip. Yeah, I mean, very interested to see where this one goes. Whether this is too little, too late.
Well, I did think that a little bit because kind of what they're talking about here, these new chips. Talking about inference chips around for AI, as you say. I mean, we were talking the week about obviously the Mandura chip from Microsoft, aren't we?
Yeah.
We've got Nvidia jumping ahead. We've got other players that are looking at building new chips, and you're right. And the money here, given that the starting point, as you say, is only in a couple $100 million. I mean, it's not really the same, is it? It kind of budgets and scope that we see from, dare I say it, the US, and potentially who knows what China are doing as well. Obviously, we don't really there's not really that much leaking out of on that.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a wide one, but I'm sure Nvidia spend more than that on tiny little bits. Apple as well. So that's just a company within a country.
I wonder what's going on here. I mean, there's clearly a lot of this. I think is come out of not recent, but around moving away from dependency, isn't it, on outside of the Europe, and that talking to purely Trump and everything's going on, because a lot of these projects are years in the making, aren't they? They've been years in design, and I guess also by using RISC-V, they're trying to kind of get that on open source without other licensing, without having to go down any of the ARM spec or anything like that. It's a safeguard, isn't it, in those respects?
Yes, definitely. So that they don't go all this far and then get sued or licensing issues. I can see the rationale behind it. I just think it's a bit underfunded, and as we mentioned, a little too late, maybe. Who knows?
I think it's massively underfunded, to be honest with you. But I mean, who else is paying for it? I mean, we've got we've got 38 strong group of tech players, they're saying, aren't they? Say, but
Yeah.
I can't remember. I didn't see anywhere in there to stress who that really was. You've got different companies here. Some of them are Italian. We've got Dutch, haven't we? There's a kind of a mix and match here of different areas. So I'm guessing this is more at the moment, kind of, I don't want to say like a skunkworks project, but it does get kind of that feel. It isn't kind of a priority EU project that has been pumped in millions of millions of euros. Excuse me, got about to say dollars then. But look, I could be very wrong. I'm curious to say the least.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see where this one goes.
But I guess RISC-V is interesting because we were talking about a few months ago. Do you remember about how there was kind of a bigger bet now, wasn't there, on using RISC-V, and we had ARM obviously getting upset because who was it? Was it Qualcomm? We were looking at RISC, weren't they? And there was a licensing issue, wasn't there? Wasn't it? Because they were ARM were arguing that actually they were leveraging some of the ARM licensing, within the RISC-V piece. That's all a bit of a grey area, I guess.
We'll see where that goes. I reckon it'll end up in court at some point.
Yeah, but I mean, look, the EU wants to move away. They want to remove dependency on the US. The whole Trump situation is definitely expediting that thought process.
Yeah.
How that affects it in the long term, who knows? But I think there's going to be more projects like this coming up very soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, talking about AI then, you may recall a little while ago that Nvidia released that personal AI computer, didn't they? Wasn't it called? Well, it was called the Qubit.
Well, they didn't release it. They announced it.
Digit.
Digit. That was it.
Which had a bit of a high-end price tag, wasn't it? About the size of a Mac Mini, and was meant to be like a personal AI desktop computer, which purely, effectively, was just interfacing a large language model, wasn't it, or something similar behind that for you to use?
Yeah.
Seems that they've produced another one, haven't they?
I think it's the same one. It's a rebrand. So Nvidia had their what's it, GTC? Is that what they call it? Their event recently.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, the developer event, and they released what they're calling the Spark. So these are, they call them their personal AI supercomputers. You can actually order the Spark now for $3,000. But as mentioned, that gets you a kind of Mac Mini, Intel NUC sized device that Intel claims is the world's smallest AI supercomputer. It's going to have one of Nvidia's GB10 Blackwell super chips in it. That GPU's got 5th generation Tensor cores, FP4 support, 128 gig of unified RAM memory, a 4 terabyte SSD, and it's apparently capable of doing 1,000 trillion operations per second of AI compute. That sounds pretty good for the money, I think.
I was just going to say, I think for the money, it sounds pretty good. I mean, what does that get you in real life? Is the other question.
Yeah. I mean, are these the same tops that Microsoft has been touting for having a Copilot PC, where you needed at least, I think, 40 tops? If so, this is 1,000. That sounds a lot bigger number. Should be a lot quicker than the NPUs on laptops.
But do we know what it's interfacing?
Or whatever you want it to be. I presume this is development, really. It's not you just buy this and any old person puts it in their house and it does AI for you. I presume you've actually got to do some coding here.
Yeah, okay. I guess you're right. You are right. It's not going to just plug and play, is it? Turn on. You're going to have to connect it. Effectively, the front end it, aren't you, with whatever model you're working with?
I think Nvidia said that basically these are designed for users to work on large AI models with or without a connection to the data center. So you don't need the data center power there to get you going. Obviously, you can offload it to the data center later when it's ready. But for your development, my understanding is you could use one of these and have something a bit more local.
Yeah, I mean, look, I haven't got $3,000, but I am curious by it.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I'm sure. I think they're ARM based. I'm sure you could put Linux on it and do whatever you want. You could load up a DeepSeek, although not quite enough RAM for that one.
No, I was going to say it hasn't quite got enough RAM for the.
You might need the larger station. It's called.
Cracking names there, my friend.
Yeah, this is a little larger. It's kind of desktop computer sized, but you are getting the GB300 Blackwell Ultra Desktop Superchip. You're getting 20 petaflops of AI performance and 784 gigabyte of unified system RAM.
Sorry, take a step back there. 784
184 gigabyte of unified system memory. Yeah, no price as of yet, but I'm gonna bet it's a tad more than the 3,000 for the Spark.
I'm going to argue that's probably 3 times the price minimum.
Easily, I reckon you're looking at 30 grand. I'm gonna say 10 times. I reckon you're looking at 25 to 30 grand, maybe
That
more.
is one hell of a machine.
It is. But if you don't like the Nvidia ones, they're going to have some OEMs building these as well. So you won't get the OEMs take. So I'm not sure if that's on the station or the Spark. I have seen photos from Dell and HP's version of the Spark. I presume maybe their version of the station will come later once it's actually ready for release.
I was thinking, were we going to get some of the who are the usual OEM partners like for their graphics cards, Gigabyte and.
I'm not sure we'll get those. I think it's more your Dell, your HP, Lenovo's, people that make servers.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah,
it makes more sense. I guess you've got them engineering for that, haven't you?
yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I'm intrigued by this. I think it's a very interesting move forward as we step into building machines that purely interface with AI solutions only.
Yeah.
And if you've got that, the station one, you're right. You can run standalone models, couldn't you? That don't necessarily have to be data center connected. You can air gap them as well.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what these are going to be like in the real world. I think we're going to see a real change because up until this point we haven't really had dedicated AI machines. And don't get me started on the Microsoft AI Copilot or whatever machines.
Yeah,
we haven't really had, have we? Because every other machine is basically built as a personal computer that then allows you to interface, using through a normal operating system and things like that. This is completely different. This is purely designed to work with AI models. So yeah, very very interesting to say the least. We will have to see what happens.
Yeah, well, I have a friend who knows someone who's pre-ordered one, so I might try and get
one of these.
Yeah, one of the Sparks. He works in an AI company, quiet. So I only found out yesterday. I thought I'd announce today, but I will leave it a month or two, and I will ask him once it's turned up how he's getting on with it.
Definitely, we want to find out. Yeah, what can it do? Yeah,
what are you actually doing with it?
Yeah, what can it really do? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, let's change track then, and let's have a look at the Apple event that happened the other week. Well, virtual event effectively was it? That dropped several new products over the course of several days.
It did drop some products.
We got a full basket full of goods, didn't we? We got new iPads. We got a couple of new iPads. We got new MacBook Airs, and we got some new studios as well. But let's talk about the iPad first.
Yes,
which got a little bit of an update. Yes,
it did, and I think this whole event was really just a spec bump, with the exception of one or two items. So we get the new iPad, the iPad 11. We had a bump from the old A14 to the A16 chip, and yes, I did not mispronounce that. That is an A16, not an A17 Pro like the Mini. So no Apple Intelligence for you.
Well,
I would have expected. I know it's their low one. I know they're having some issues with AI at the moment, but I would have expected the entire lineup to have AI capabilities now.
You would have thought so, wouldn't you? Given where they're going with this.
Yeah, but apparently not. So I suspect it's a RAM issue, specifically with the A16. But why they went for the A16, not the 17 Pro? Because I'm sure I saw somewhere Apple said you had to have 8 gig of RAM for the AI stuff. And I think the A16's only got 6 gig of RAM. So that's probably why technically it can't do it. But why they chose that, I have no idea.
No, and the pricing wise,
the same price.
Exactly the same price, isn't they? You're right. They've just spec bumped everything.
Yeah, and you're getting storage. You're getting 128 gig of storage rather than I think 64 wasn't the base on the last one. So now the base is 128, and you can go up to 512. You can get the cellular version of it. All your old accessories still work. The USB pencil and all that, pencil, whatever they call it, still all work exactly the same as the last one. So if you're after a quick upgrade for the same price, and that would slot nicely in for you.
I have to say, I think value for money on these things is pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've always been pretty good value, but now I think at least 128 gig. It's a good chip. The chips, yeah, they are faster because we're looking at A16s.
Yeah.
I know Apple have got some weird metrics on how fast things are. We won't go into that because it's just silly. I don't know whether I'm worried about the lack of the AI stuff, to be honest with you, because when I think about entry level iPad and I think of the typical users, I don't necessarily think they're too worried about that, but I could be wrong.
But if you've seen Apple's adverts all over the TV about AI, you just presume it's everywhere when you're all the new products. As your average consumer who doesn't know about this, I mean, I suspect you just think, I'll go buy a new iPad, it'll have the AI stuff, and then you might be a bit disappointed when it doesn't.
Value point, I agree. I think you're right. But I don't know whether the real impact is there. I think you're right. People will be probably surprised that it's not. I think you could be saying that, but
yeah, I don't know. I suspect AI isn't high up on their priority list. I mean, it might be. I don't know. I am not the average consumer when it comes to tech.
no. And I think the other thing you'll look at here is the price wise. They're selling the ninth, or was it the last generation ones? I think I saw the
10th. Yeah.
10th one were down to a couple £100 as well. So if you're looking for a cheap iPad, the older ones now, if you like for kids or anybody who just wants a tablet, just tablety stuff, I think good place to be. But if you don't want to spend a lot of money, but you want a decent tablet, then entry level iPad is not a bad place to be, is it really?
No, it's not. And we've got one in our house. It's a solid machine. I think we've got ours as the 10th gen.
Yeah, we've got two 9th gens for the kids to use.
Yeah.
And they do exactly what they say on the tin. They work. They're not necessarily slow for what they're doing, playing Roblox, watching YouTube, doing their homework applications. They're not slow at all.
No.
They're good they're good devices. So yeah, I think if I was in the market for upgrading, I definitely wouldn't say no to this. Let's be honest, this is where Apple does what it says. It builds a tablet that works, isn't it? Just works out the box. And with that, obviously they've, as you say, they may have skimped over the lack of Apple Intelligence, but not with the new iPad Air. Certainly that also has had a massive spec bump as well, hasn't it? But does bring you Apple Intelligence.
Yeah, I think was it an M1 in the previous one?
It was indeed, yeah.
So it never got the M2. It was the M1. So yeah, a big jump from an M1 to an M3. Was it 8 CPU cores, 9 GPU cores? Apple are touting it is twice as fast as the previous M1 and 3.5 times faster than the A14. I don't know why I mentioned the A14. That's the old iPad, I suppose.
I guess that is, but I mean, to bump it up to an M3 now, it's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think
you should get you some big improvements on the old graphics and the AI based stuff, shouldn't it?
Massively, yeah. And they're so thin. I saw one of these in person the other day, when these new iPads.
Oh yeah, I've seen them in the tech shop in the airport. I'm going, oh, very nice.
I can't get over how thin it is.
Yeah, very very thin. But again, that's another one. Pricing hasn't changed on that. So you still $600 for the 11-inch starting price and $800 for the 13-inch. But Apple actually produced a new Magic Keyboard specifically designed for the iPad Air now. Still not cheap on those. You could buy an iPad for the price of the 13-inch one.
No,
$320 for a keyboard.
Yeah, don't. I mean, I was thinking the other day, and I was listening to another podcast that were talking about compare the iPads for size, right? And they were talking about the iPad Pros particularly, and they were saying how, if you take current iPad Pro, and mine's the last generation one before that. Mine's the M1 generation iPad Pro.
Yeah.
And it is, take out the Folio keypad. It's so light.
Yeah.
You put that Folio keyboard back on it, the one like you've just mentioned, it's like twice the weight.
It's bigger than an iPad Air. It's about the size of a MacBook Pro, isn't it?
It's crazy.
It's bigger than a MacBook Air is what I wanted to say, yeah.
And if you've got the 13-inch one as well, you have basically you've got a MacBook in your hands, haven't you?
Yeah, so why not just get the MacBook?
But saying that, though, these Airs are impressive machines on their own, very powerful tablets. And I think, again, if I was to be realistic and truthful with myself, the Apple iPad Air is probably just enough for what I need. To be absolutely true to you, I don't necessarily think I'm doing anything on my iPad that is even scratching the surface of the M1
No,
compared to this.
The only thing I'd miss is I'd still like the ProMotion display on it.
Yeah,
Or not even 120 hertz. Just give me 90 hertz. Just like a bit more than 60. So
give me some hertz.
give me some hertz. Just so when you slide a page up, it's nice and silky smooth.
Yeah, there is something about that, isn't there? On that.
Yeah.
So new iPad Air, both staying at the same price, and all available obviously now. And then the iPad Air, isn't it, goes from 128 to 1 terabyte storage. Again, they're both cellular as well, aren't they?
But now, right, you better sit down for this next one because there has been a price drop on this product, which is unheard of for Apple. But yeah, the MacBook Air got yourself an upgrade to the M4 with 16 gig of RAM as a starting RAM for once. Nice to see. Got a new camera, a new sky blue color, and a cheaper price. I think it's $999 is the starting price for the 13-inch, so $100 less than before. And $11.99 for the 15-inch. So again, I think $100 less as well.
Mind-boggling, sir.
Shocked. Better CPUs, more RAM, better camera, new color, and cheaper. It doesn't happen very often with Apple.
What? Stop, man.
We're living in a parallel universe here.
These MacBook Airs are tasty machines. And that blue one, I don't know, there's something about that blue, isn't there, that they come out with there. As I heard it called the other day, Mum's minivan blue. In the US.
Yeah,
I like it. You
don't need a MacBook Pro, do you? You could just do a MacBook Air, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Give me 24 gig of RAM and off we trot. The fact again, you've got that 12 megapixel center stage camera. You can drive 2 external displays now, and 2 external plus the onboard display, and they're 6K displays as well. I mean, what's going on?
Exactly. Yeah, they can finally drive some monitors.
I mean, do you remember when I got my M1 Pro and the craziness trying to get it to run 2 monitors, let alone 3?
I remember that. Where the dongles everywhere, weren't there?
Diggly dangly dongles.
Was it the right dongle?
I'm not sure, sir. Tell me. Now you think to yourself, it's just, look at it. They fixed that initial issues, and the power that's coming out of these now. I mean, okay, I'm not suggesting that M4 MacBook Air is going to trump everything else, but it certainly is going to, make a big difference.
More than enough for 99% of the population.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. So pricing on these then, you said what's the price drop then?
Yeah, $999 starting price for the 13-inch model with 16 gig of RAM.
Wow. I mean, I can't decide what's going on here with Apple. They've stuck all their prices down. They've dropped prices on particular models, I hear.
Yeah.
Are they softening the blow of tariffs that are coming?
Maybe, or shifting the blame. Look, we've reduced all our prices, but now we have to put them up because of the new tariffs. I think there's a game going on here.
I think so. I think this is a softly approach.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, I think Apple can afford to swallow, but they're not going to swallow. I think they're still making a load of profit on this.
Yeah,
what am I saying? They're still making loads of money on this. So they can drop $100. Talking of money, though, that new Mac Studio, the big boy.
I knew you were teeing me up for something expensive.
Yeah, finally got an upgrade. It's been a while since the Mac Studio. Well, has it ever had an upgrade? It was announced, and that was it, wasn't it? This will be the first. Is this the first upgrade?
Did they get M2?
I don't think. Did we get M2 Ultra? No, didn't it come out with M2 Ultra? Because I can't remember now.
I think it was. It was M2 Ultra, wasn't it?
It's been a while. It's been a while, and we have now 2 configurations. You can pick an M4 Max.
No, sorry. Hang on a minute. They came out with the M1 Max or the M1 Ultra. That was the launch model with it.
And
then in 2023 we got the M2 Max.
Oh, okay, we did. All right, so we have had one. Okay, so now
we skipped a generation.
Yeah, you can have the M4 Max, or bizarrely an M3 Ultra. We didn't get an M4 Ultra. But look, M4 Max, the same CPU that you get in your MacBook Pros, starts at best part of $2,000. M3 Ultra is the one we want to talk about. So this is the big boy one, isn't it? This is 32 CPU cores, up to 80 GPU cores, apparently offering nearly double the performance of the M4 Max. Starts with 96 gigabyte unified memory, but you can put a whopping 512 in there if you've got deep pockets. And
Deep pockets, yes.
up to 16 terabytes of storage, again, if you've got deep pockets. You're getting Thunderbolt 5 in there, so the latest tech. Starts at what? $4,000 with the M3 Ultra, but goes all the way up to 14,000 if you go fully loaded. So if you go the full 512 of RAM and a 16 terabyte of SSD, that's a big upgrade for that memory and that storage. But if you would maybe use this as AI workloads, cut that storage down a bit, just go for the 1 terabyte, save $4,500. Still going to cost you $9,500 for the 512 one. But I'm interested to see. I've seen people using the M3 Studios, sorry, Mac Studios, I should say, as AI machines.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I've seen it in
a couple of them
together.
They've had to put a couple together to get the RAM requirements. I've seen 3, 4, even 5 of them, all daisy chained with Thunderbolt for networking to use as that. So I think with these new ones, though, you could probably get away with just 2, giving you a terabyte of unified memory between the pair of them.
I think these are impressive little boxes, aren't they? Impressive price, obviously, but
I'm interested to see how these Nvidia Sparks hold up to this. Just AI, not as a workstation, as AI tasks. Because you could buy 3 of the Nvidia Sparks for the price of 1 Mac Studio, the 512 one. I say you won't have quite as much RAM. You'll only have 300 and something gigabytes of RAM. I'm interested to see the performance.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, so 3 of those versus 1 Studio. What's it like for models that obviously would fit in the RAM? So models that are 300 or 400 gigabytes in size.
Kind of think that the Apple boxes might have an advantage here.
I think it's going to come down to the GPU.
Yeah, definitely.
Providing the model fits in it. Like for like, we have a model that's say 300 gig or whatever, and it fits in both their memories and maybe the Nvidia. I wonder what the Nvidia GPU is going to be aimed at AI, whereas the Apple one isn't specifically AI geared.
No, but Blackwell's are. I was going to say the Blackwell. That's the difference that they've got is that Blackwell is purely AI focused, isn't it? And it's been built from the ground up to drive those. But yeah, you're right. We've already seen people driving DeepSeek across studios. That's already out there in the wild. People are doing that. So yeah, look, I think you're right. It's going to come down to what you're running, isn't it? And what you're aiming at.
Yeah, we could do with a Spark in the middle that had like 500 gig of RAM.
That's a good point. Yeah,
without paying probably the $30,000 for the Big Daddy 768 or whatever it was.
Well, you buy enough of those studios, you're going to hit that price point anyway, aren't you? So I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, you are. That's true.
You're not far off that at that point with these. But look, I think it's an impressive upgrade. We kind of we're always hoping we're going to see an Ultra chip, and I'm guessing we'll see the M4 Ultra next time round when they do a swap places.
Yeah.
So look, I would, if I had the money, I'd be down for one of these. I don't ask me what I'd do with it again, but hell, what a machine! And given with Apple, you can't upgrade post buying. It's probably a good way to get as much bang for buck now.
Go big.
Go big or go home, or I can't afford that. I'm very sorry.
Go cry to the bank manager.
Yeah. Why is my credit card crying? Oh man, what impressive all round, impressive pricing. But yeah, hell, Apple, you do know how to make some sexy little machines. All right, so it's probably a good time for us to. So what do we got then?
Ming Chi Kuo. He's been out with some more information about apparently the foldable iPhone, and it's coming maybe next year. A launch in 2026 apparently. He's saying they've apparently finally got the tech where we're in a happy state where you can't see the crease when folded.
Oh, really?
They're saying this. They're saying, yeah. And he's given us a bit more spec-wise. He's saying we're going to get stainless steel and titanium alloy hinges. It's going to be 4.5 millimeters thick when unfolded. And I think it's 9.5 when folded, which indicates there must be a slight gap between the displays at one point.
Must be, yeah.
Yeah, but you're going to have to make some sacrifices. You won't
What,
get
from
a
your
Face
wallet?
ID. Module's too big or too thick to get in the 4.5 mil you've got. So it'll be a return to Touch ID like you get on the iPad Airs and
That's
the Minis.
okay. Interesting.
It's not a bad. It's not an end all compromise. If you
No,
want to
no,
go for a foldable, you need each half fin because otherwise these are chunky boys when folded.
they are.
So look, I can see that they've not got the Face ID tech down yet to be thin enough to put in there. But you're apparently going to get a 7.8 in a display and a 5.5-inch outer display. So when folded, so that's when it's unfolded. That's what's similar size to the iPad Mini, which is what I was after. Not after that price tag though.
No,
No, he
no
is saying the
way.
price will be exceeding $2,000. Which
That's a
basically
lot
means
of.
we've taken an iPad, we're talking about an iPhone 16 Pro Max, we've taken the price of an iPad Mini and just slapped them together.
That we have. That we have. I am. I'm still not convinced.
I know you're
I
not.
think.
I would be tempted depending on how close to that $2,000 it is.
I think I'd have to go and play with one. This is not like an iPhone at the moment where I'd buy an iPhone without looking at it because
You just go as the new one. I haven't upgraded for a couple of years. Just send me it. Yeah.
Yeah. This I'd have to go and play with.
Yes. And I don't think I'd be one of the first ones. This would be Apple's first go at doing a foldable. I'd probably want to wait a couple of months and get some more feedback before I spent that kind of money.
It's a lot of cash, isn't it?
Yeah, but then I wouldn't need the iPad Mini.
No.
I could sell that one off to pay for some of it. Yeah, and I just have a phone that turns into an iPad, and I don't need any other iPad.
Is that a phone in your pocket, or are you keen to be carrying some kind of large computing device?
Exactly. So look, I am still very interested. I'm worried about the price and the potential durability, but tech's getting better. I still read the reviews of Android stuff, the latest tech that comes out, and their foldables are getting pretty good now.
I was watching BBC TV the other night. I was watching The Apprentice, the show, and the candidates obviously not allowed to have their own phones, are they? And things like that. So they get given a phone when they're, on their challenge or whatever you want to call it. And I realised they had the Samsung foldables.
Oh, they're using the Galaxy Fold.
Yeah, and they had it unfolded. And you know what? I looked at the screen and it just looked like a glossy matte, if that makes sense. It wasn't either one or the other, but it, that the screen just didn't look crisp.
Because it's got a plastic coating? I think
it must be. Yeah, it's got to be.
I think it's something to do with the coating on it. Yeah, but yeah, I'd be interested to see how Apple's comes out.
Look, yeah. Again, it's one of those things you're gonna have to go see. You're gonna have to play with. You're gonna have to, is it right for you? But yeah, I guess we're all going to be going there at some point.
A trip to the Apple Store is in order.
No, I'd never say no.
Team Jolly.
So then, obviously, with this foldable phone, whenever it comes out, it's going to want a new operating system, isn't it? But it's not going to get what's coming out next, which is iOS 19.
No.
Which is planned, according to our friends over at Bloomberg, to be the biggest revamp, according to my quote, since iOS 7.
Yeah. One of the most dramatic software overhauls, allegedly.
Yeah, I was trying to think back to iOS 7.
And we went from skeuomorphic, didn't we?
That was it, wasn't it? Yes.
Is that pronounced skeuomorphic? But the old style to the new, more modern, flat kind of style.
It. Yep, that's the one, isn't it? And now, of course, we're in iOS 18. And
so
that seems a long time ago, doesn't it?
It does. But we should hopefully get to see this WWDC in June, shouldn't we? So
we should.
Apparently, it's going to go well beyond just the new design language and aesthetic tweaks. A lot more under the hood. Mac's getting an upgrade at the same time to match the updates from iOS 19. New styles of icons, menus, apps, Windows system buttons, loosely allegedly based on Vision OS.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was kind of thinking about it, and I did some research, and people are kind of saying that the Vision OS GUI is very good, and people like it. So I haven't used it, obviously.
I don't know. I still need to take a trip to the Apple Store and go have a play with the Vision Vision Pro.
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing the long planned smashing together of iPad OS and
Mac
um,
OS.
Mac OS. I think they've clearly defined that those are different now, haven't they?
Yeah.
But bringing together Vision OS is interesting though, because what does that mean that we're going to get new methods of navigation? Is that going to mean the GUIs are going to change in the long run? I'm just, kind of spitballing, as they say, isn't it?
But also, just making talking about the previous story with the iPhone Foldable, is that running iOS or iPad OS?
Well, yeah, that's a
Because they
great
work
question, isn't it?
slightly. I know they're the same OS under the hood. They just work slightly differently because of the form factors.
Then what
So,
would
are
it
we
get?
going to get iOS kind of usability on the front screen, but when you unfold it, does it become more like an iPad?
Well, yeah, that's it, isn't it?
Interesting how they handle that one, or is it just iOS and that's just it? I presume they wouldn't just do that. They'd have to make when you're in that different form factor, it needs to be used slightly differently.
Well, then, yeah, then does it change to iPad OS? So,
Yeah,
oh god, there's too many
it's
questions
the
there.
same under the hood. It's just a different
Yeah.
interaction. So does it switch? I don't know. Anyway, I slight sidetrack there.
So yeah, iOS 19 is going to, I'm assuming, going to debut at WWDC.
Yeah,
So I'm curious here, and then we should get the first betas probably within a month or so from
yeah.
that.
So that's June, July, some point
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean iOS 18.4 is about to drop. I mean we're on beta 4 now, 18.4.4, which at least I'm running. And the same with Sequoia 15.4 as well. So they're about to hit up. I don't know how many more variations we're going to get this year on 18. I imagine we may get to 18.5, maybe, I
Oh,
suspect.
we're
But
still waiting for that AI stuff, aren't we? The more
yeah, so I imagine
personalized assistant, if we
yeah,
get that.
but I think that's slipped, isn't it? I think Apple have admitted that slipped. We're not going to see that in 18.
Well, I did see there's a class action this morning, something about that.
Yeah, I think that's going to come to 19.
Yeah. Okay.
So then, last rumor then.
Last rumor. It's a Microsoft one.
Ooh.
Allegedly, we're going to be getting a handheld Xbox later this year and new consoles in 2027. So the handhelds a bit too mixed. And from what I'm hearing, the handhelds won't be made by Microsoft. They're going to be in collaboration with PC gaming OEMs, so Asus, Lenovo, for example, who already make handheld rivals that run Windows. And again, the Xbox One's going to be running Windows, but more kind of prominent feature of the store and PC Game Pass. So I know Microsoft have been working on better handheld interfaces for
Yeah.
Windows for gaming consoles. So maybe this is where we have it. This is where it's debuted in one of these handheld, and it's officially labeled Xbox handheld. But will it then play the same games?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it?
Yeah. I say there's no indication of new custom silicon, so it's not running the Xbox silicon in a cut down. It's probably likely to be running AMD's Strix Point APUs like the other devices.
So I guess what we're looking for is like Steam Deck format here, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Steam Deck format, yeah. Or your Nintendo Switch format. It'd be a bit odd if it's not an actual Microsoft produced one.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Because they don't tend to farm out their, they may have it manufactured by the people, but it's certainly not tagged, is it?
No, it's not a Xbox Mobile by Asus or something like that.
No.
Yeah, I don't know where this is going, or whether this is, these are rumors. This could be mixed news. It might be wrong. Somebody's got the wrong end of the stick here about what it actually is. Maybe it's just a new front end for Windows when you're in that small form factor.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like you say, if it plays the games and I can go log into Game Pass and I can play stuff, then yeah, I think it'd be quite good. Are all the games going to work in that form factor? No, sure.
And you can't just play all your Xbox games on PC.
No, and then the other thing I kind of worry about is storage. Because let's be honest, we know how much storage some of these games take up.
Huge amounts. No, I'm doing all right with my Steam Deck. I've just got a terabyte and it's doing okay.
Yeah, but you're not probably... How many AAA games are you running on there?
I've got a few that are over 100 gig on there.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, you look at the Xbox, I mean, several AAA titles, you're bouncing off the edges of it, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
then I guess though, will this be aimed more at streaming?
Maybe, yeah, maybe it's a bit more like the what's the Logitech thing? Logitech have got a streaming one,
Yeah, I
haven't
know the
they?
one you're on about.
And
Yeah,
Sony's one. Sony have a streaming handheld, don't they? Can't remember what it's called now,
yeah,
but it only
I know
streams
the
to
one
the
you're on about. But yeah,
PS5.
yeah, yeah. Hmm. Just yeah, I wonder.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's probably a good place for us to wrap up for today. Then we'll be back next time with episode 204 with all the latest tech news and updates coming your way. We'll hopefully try and squeeze that into our busy schedules in the next couple of weeks. And then, just as a quick heads up, we will be going on. We'll get a show in by the start of the month. Sorry, that's April, and then there may be 2 quiet weeks as due to some holidays, well-deserved holidays and Easter period. Then we'll be back about the 3rd week of April. But we will have episode 204 first before that. So of course you can find us on the socials. We're on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast from, as well as Blue Sky. We don't mention the word X anymore on this podcast.
No.
So give us a like, share with your friends. That's always great. It helps us to get out there in front of more people. So with that, I've been Jay.
I've been Karl. Have a good one all.